Welcome to What to Do When, a podcast from real lawyers with real perspective, where we explore a variety of legal issues and scenarios. Each week, we focus on a new topic and discuss what to do when and if any of these legal scenarios ever happen to you or a loved one. With over 40 years of combined legal experience, our hosts offer their unique perspectives and insights on a range of real-life legal situations.
Hi again, it's us here at Critzer Cardani in Richmond, Virginia. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Scott. Jackie, what's on the docket for today?
What to do when the unwed break up.
Ooh. So just so we're clear, we're talking about people who never got married but maybe lived together?
Shacking up.
Shacking up, as the old saying goes. Why is that a problem?
Oh, I mean, it's not. You can live together and then break up and go about your merry way. But the problems that might exist, maybe you all bought a house together but only put it in one person's name.
Or put it in both people's name.
Okay, well, let's talk about both. So if it's in Scott and I start living together, maybe we're just roommates.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be any kind of formal relationship. We're just roommates.
That's true.
But we decided it'd be my house. I'd put it in my name. I'm on the deed, sucker. Yeah. And he, over the course of some time, years, well, he contributes, right? He helps pay the mortgage. Mortgage is $2,000 a month. He pays me $1,000. I put it on the mortgage and everything's great. Well, Scott decides that it's time not to live together anymore.
Can you blame me? I'm just saying.
He's moved on in life. And now he wants half the equity in the house. Do you get it?
Woo! This is the problem, folks, and this is what we want to talk about right here. There is mechanisms to go to court. You can file a partition suit and things like that to try to figure that out. But the difference is when you buy something in a marriage context, there's protections and there's vehicles.
Well, but if I'm the only one on the deed, it doesn't matter what you file in court. You're not getting anything. If we're not married, you're sunk.
Yeah. It's very true.
Right. But you're
right, because there's no partition. You're right. I was thinking of the other way when you're actually having the asset together. But you're right. You're on the deed. My contribution is going to be like, oh, well.
A gift. Appreciate your gift. Thank you for helping me build equity.
And what we're trying to talk about here is like, I see this all the time. People come to me now. It's been a regular thing. I think there's a generation now that believes that marriage is stupid and we shouldn't do it, but we're going to live together. Right?
Sure.
And that's okay. I don't agree with it. I understand where it's coming from. But what they don't understand is you're going to have the exact same problems that married people have when. But the difference is there's no
judicial protection.
There's no judicial protection, no mechanism. So, for instance, if Jackie and I are married and I decide to leave, the judge is going to figure out I get half the equity.
But it doesn't matter if he's on the deed or not on the deed if we're married.
Exactly.
Okay, that just doesn't matter. It's still a marital asset. But in this scenario, we're not married. And in the first scenario, I'm the only one on the deed and Scott leaves. Bye. How about he doesn't leave? How about I say it's time for you to go?
Yeah.
I get that. I have that option. Versus if Scott is a co-owner on the home, and he says, all right, well, I want you to leave, or I'm going to leave, or he just decides we're not going to share this house anymore. Well, there are ways that he can force the sale of the property. We can't evict one or the other because we're both owners, so that's out the door. But one of us could petition the court, ask the court to force a sale so that we can divide whatever we need to, right? So there's some protections because we're co-owners, even if we're not married. But in the first scenario, I own the house. I say, Scott, you got to go. He goes, but he's got a house full. Maybe he bought everything in the house. How does he get that back?
And, and again, there are some civil suits that you can file, but it gets really messy. For instance, say Jackie gave me $1,000 to buy the couch. It was $2,000. I put the $1,000 in my account with all my other money. Maybe I have $50,000 in the account, and I go buy the couch. Okay. Well, was that $1,000? I can just say, well, Jack, you gifted that to me for my birthday.
You're just going to have a hard time dividing out that property. In fact, I got contacted by a girlfriend of mine from law school within the last couple of weeks, and she said her friend was going through this exact scenario. Her friend had been living with this guy for years, like 10 or 20 years. I want to say they'd built this life together, never married. And he decided he was done with the relationship. He owned the house, right? She had to leave. And apparently there were, I mean, you can imagine there were relationship issues. And she had a house full of stuff. And he didn't really say, no, you can't have it. But he drug his feet. And then, you know, they were asking me, how does she get this back? And well, you can do a warrant and detinue, right? How do you do that? Now it's just a whole judicial process of getting your property back. But in that process, you've got to be able to assert and prove to some degree of reliability that what you've listed as your property is in fact your property. So now, fast forward, maybe we have a joint account. Maybe we both put the same amount of money into that account, and that's how we bought the furniture. Well, now what, Scott?
Yeah, now what? That's my point. This is the point we're bringing up is this gets really messy unless you plan ahead, you know, and you figure this out, how you're going to divide things. It's like when we entered our business, we have a plan for dividing it if one of us doesn't want to be partners anymore.
Sure.
So you have to think ahead, and that's kind of what you're thinking about here, is you almost have to be smart enough to have a contractual relationship with the person you're entering into of how things are going to play out, because without it,
property ownership becomes
a nightmare.
Muddy. It's
muddy.
But the short of it is, if you are living in the house that somebody else owns and you've been in this relationship for a long period of time, you've contributed to the bills and the mortgage and the maintenance, and then, my gosh, maybe you've even paid the property taxes.
What about the car?
If you aren't a co-owner and you're not married, you're sunk.
I think it's even worse if you are a co-owner in some respects, because say you and I own a $100,000 car. We go out and buy a really nice brand new Tahoe, right? We're both on the
Hard to believe those are $100,000.
We're both on the
title.
They're both on the title. We're both on the payment.
Registration. Oh, the lien.
The lien. Okay. You say, I want out. I want you to pay me half my car. I don't have 50 grand.
Right.
Maybe my credit sucks. I can't even refinance it in my name. Maybe I don't want to refinance my name.
Right. So now what do I do? How do I get my name off of that vehicle?
And then you're fighting over who's driving it. You know, like, who's driving it? Sorry, that was a funny thing.
Who be driving that car?
But my point is this. All of a sudden, Jackie comes and says, I need car keys. I'm taking the Tahoe to Tahoe for the weekend.
I'm going skiing.
And I say, hell to the no. You're not taking any car and putting that many miles on the car. And she's like, I'm a co-owner. I can drive it. She steals the keys out of my room in the middle of the night.
But they're my keys too.
And she drives to Tahoe. What recourse do I have? Nothing.
None. Co-owner.
What if you wreck it?
Hope we have insurance.
Yeah. I mean, what if you wreck it and you do something that's outside of the insurance, like you run into the side of the building and, you know, the intentional tort's not covered.
Whoa. I'm
just saying, all of a sudden you have $100,000 joint loan that you're joint and severably liable on. It's not oh, you own 50 and I have 50.
You're both 100% responsible.
It messes up your credit. It messes up your life.
Oh, man.
Well, and take Jackie's even simpler example. We'll say we're not shacking up. We're just friends.
Oh.
But, you know, we bought a house together, okay? And we've lived there. And it's in both our names. We'll just put it that way. We both own the house.
Okay.
We've been there for 15 years. I decide I'm going to get married.
Okay.
And I come to you and I say, hey, Jackie, I would love to have the house and my wife and I move here. And you said,
that's nice.
That's nice.
That's nice.
Now, Jackie, I know, would just give me the house, and she wouldn't even ask for the money she put into it, but most people would. So my point is, your future now is on hold.
Sure.
You can't get, most people can't qualify for 2 or 3 houses.
Most people can't.
So, you know, all of a sudden you can't get a new house. You're in this situation with the old house. You can't get out of it because...
I guess you and your wife could move into our house.
Yeah.
And I could stay there. That'd be neat. Yeah. Well, so we've talked about the pitfalls, right? And what is likely to happen and the bad way that this is going to shake out.
Hold on. I guess I have one more thing. Sorry. Remember, relationships that aren't married break up just as much as relationships that are married. There's no difference. So, but anyways, go ahead.
So how do you avoid doing this? In other words, are there, I mean, could you put a contract in place? What could you do to help mitigate or lessen some of the fallout?
I think that's probably your best bet, is to put some kind of agreement together. We are agreeing that we're going to live together. We're going to buy certain, almost like a marriage covenant kind of deal, in the sense of everything that we buy during our relationship together is co-owned.
Okay.
And regardless of whose name it's in, and I think you'd have trouble with a judge even on that, so maybe on a property.
It sounds like you're kind of talking like a prenup, but no marriage to go with it. So this is basically a relationship contract.
A relationship contract.
Well, so what do we have to have for contract?
Offer?
We have to offer and acceptance. We have to have consideration.
Consideration, yeah.
What's the consideration?
Yeah, what would be the consideration? $10?
Love and affection?
Love and affection? I don't know. I think that's what we're talking about, though. You're going to have to walk this through, and, you can't just... Could you just grab a contract off the internet and think that would work?
I mean, you can do anything you want.
Okay. So
sure, you could.
You didn't hear any sarcasm in that at all.
Is it wise to do that? Well, no, it's also not wise for me to watch a YouTube video and go to my car and think that I can replace the alternator. It's not that I can't. Of course I can, but I might cause more damage than if I had just taken it to a reputable mechanic, right? Does that make sense? If you want something done from a legal perspective, it is always going to be better to go to a good attorney, right? Sometimes some attorneys are no better than what you find on the internet. So be wise. Use wisdom when you're interviewing an attorney. Use wisdom when you are doing your research and trying to figure out, who handles this kind of thing. You don't want to go to... and I do bankruptcy, but let's say I only did bankruptcy and I did nothing else. You don't necessarily want to go to a bankruptcy attorney and ask them for some sort of prenuptial contract or agreement that needs to be worded in such a way that protects you like a prenup would without it being a prenup, right? You need to do your research. Don't go to, Johnny's friend because Johnny's friend is an attorney and does wills, trusts, and estates. Be wise about it.
Yeah, and folks, you got to protect yourself, and you got to think through this. Is it the wisest decision to buy a car with somebody else that you're not married to, that you're not in relationship with, or whatever?
Well, but think about the true complication in that is the cosign.
Yes.
Because that is the same thing.
Yeah.
There is no difference in a cosign, which perhaps is best saved for a different podcast about financial responsibility and financial partnerships and how to dissolve those. But co-signing is, in fact, exactly the same thing as co-owning. You have to co-own in order to co-sign. Yep. So,
no, I agree, and that's the problem. You have to think through these decisions. There's a generation out there, and I'm not ripping on them. They just think that if they avoid marriage, they're going to be okay.
Right.
And they start these relationships without the understanding of these little simple things. And then all of a sudden, like you said, 3 years down the road, they're like, this isn't working for me. I want out.
That's right.
And they're stuck. And I've had that so many times. I mean, sometimes the other person's gracious. Hey, you can keep the house. It's great. Move on. But more times than not, you have two people tied up in legal knots because they didn't pre-plan and thought that this was going to be so much better than a covenant that is ordained. And I just worry about it for you young folks because we see it all the time. I can't tell you how many times people have come to us and like, I own this car with this other person. There's nothing I can do. I own this house with this other person. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
He's kicking me to the curb, and I've lived in that house 20 years. He doesn't have a right to kick me to the curb, does he?
He does if you're not married. And then again, we have to back up to this. If you've lived anywhere for a period of time, and I'm not talking 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you are acquiring stuff. We all do it. Maybe you're really good at it and you are pack rat, or maybe you're really good at minimizing. Either way, you're accumulating Christmas decorations, holiday decorations. Maybe somebody passed away and left you their fine china. I don't think fine china is given as wedding gifts anymore, but maybe it is. And you've accumulated this stuff, and what happens to the stuff? You can't, not only are you you don't even have a rental history for that period of time you're living there. You don't have a payment history. And now you've got to go find a new place and furnish a new place. It's just, there's wisdom in seeking some counsel prior to moving in with somebody and taking that leap.
And what's the old adage? Prior planning promotes positive performance. And that's what we're really trying to talk to. And we're not being silly. It sounds silly, but we just see such messes right now that are popping up everywhere. Because, and I did see the trend about 10 years ago. It seemed like people really just kicked marriage to the curb and said, we're just going to live together, which is fine. And I mean, I'll never forget, I was in Goochland one time, and a guy, one of the attorneys, another situation, the husband owned everything. He was fairly wealthy. He had the house, the cars, everything was in his name, all the furniture he bought. They had 2 kids, and wife was basically a stay-at-home mom. Guess what she got in the end? A swift kick to the curb. Got nothing.
Ouch.
She couldn't prove that she bought one thing in that house because she didn't. Now, we all know in the context of marriage, she would have been protected, but the attorney actually filed a divorce proceeding. Yeah, I know. Don't laugh. But anyways, and I'm like thinking, that's not going to fly.
I mean, there's no common law marriage in Virginia, number one. But in that scenario, she's not even eligible for support, spousal support. Child support's always available. Yeah. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about spousal support. No eligibility for that. If you're not married, you're done. You don't have any eligibility for spousal support.
And that's what we're trying to say. Look, 7 years of your life with somebody, and all of a sudden you have nothing.
Nothing.
And that's a rude awakening when that happens, to the point that, and you feel victimized and traumatized, and you somewhat are. But your remedies are this big.
They're very, very small. Be wise. So the whole point of this podcast, the whole point is that if you're going to move in instead of getting married, or if you're going to move in and hope to one day get married, you should still consider the pre-planning. Consider a contract. Consider something that is formal and in writing and written by an attorney. Seek wise counsel from attorneys. Move yourself into a position where you will not be compromised if it doesn't work out 5, 10, 15, 5 months down the road. Whatever the case may be, seek counsel and protect yourself in the event that the unwed relationship, in fact, does break up.
Yes. Like and subscribe. We thank you for listening today.
See you guys next time. Thanks so much.
Bye.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of What to Do When. For more episodes, be sure to subscribe to our podcast, and we encourage you to check our archives to listen to previous topics. Tune in next week for a new episode and some fresh perspective from Critzer Cardani.